Got to show the folks who have been putting in the work here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City Hall. I'm so excited to stand here with colleagues in community, friends, leaders about our city's budget process. We're so excited that you all find it as thrilling as we do to join us here. I want to recognize, and you'll hear from many of the folks who are up here, President Ed Flynn, City Councilor and Chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, City Councilor Lydia Edwards, and also State Senator, City Councilor Kenzie Bach, our Chief of Administration and Finance, Justin Starrett, Chief of Community Engagement, Brianna Malore, Jim Williamson, Budget Director of the Office of Budget Management, Gabby Germano, Assistant Director of the Office as well, so proud of her, and community leaders, Armani White, who is the Director of Municipal Democracy at the Center for Economic Democracy, and Andres de Castillo of Right to the City, Co-Director of Right to the City Boston. In November of 2021, voters across Boston overwhelmingly passed an amendment making budgeting more democratic and accessible to all of our residents. This came about after the leadership of community partners along with city councilors who are standing here to ensure that the city council would have a louder, prouder voice and partnership in making sure that our city's dollars would be equitably allocated according to the needs and interests and vision of our residents. Today, we are announcing a series of community listening sessions that will run in the period between February 15th and February 25th that really represent an opening up of the process to residents from the very beginning. And I want to acknowledge that City Councilor Erin Murphy has joined us as well. Thank you, Councilor. I served on the council for many years before stepping into this role. I've been part of many, many budget conversations, and it was always frustrating that by the time we got to the point in the process, late in spring, where residents would actually come, express their views, give feedback, many of the line items were already locked in. And the changes then that came as a result of that feedback and time and sweat equity that our residents had put in often didn't reflect the scale and scope and urgency of what we had received. Now the issue was both governance and balance of power, as well as the balance of the process itself. And so this year, we are starting with resident feedback through a partnership between the City Council and the Office of Budget Management to ensure that we begin with that visioning, participation, and direct accountability with our residents in even drafting the very first version of our city budget. These listening sessions will be grouped by City Council District, and so I think we'll hear more from our colleagues. They will be Tuesday the 15th, Saturday the 19th, Wednesday the 23rd, and Friday the 25th. All of the details can be found at boston.gov/budget. At each session, we will share information on the budgeting process to make sure it is accessible even as an entry point for anyone, no matter your level of familiarity with city government or with the budget, and then solicit feedback from residents directly. We invite community members to inform decisions on our annual budget, federal recovery funds, as well as our new participatory budgeting model. As we strive to build a city that's more responsive to the needs of all of our communities, we will continue to look to our residents as leaders and critical partners in achieving those goals. And I look forward and really urge and implore everyone in our city to take the opportunity to contribute their voice and perspective. Un poco en español, hoy estamos anunciando una serie de reuniones comunitarias en colaboración con el Consejo Municipal de Boston y la Oficina de Presupuesto del Gobierno Municipal, después de una acción de liderazgo de la comunidad entre un proceso nuevo de presupuesto. En estas reuniones comunitarias compartiremos información sobre el proceso presupuestario y preguntaremos a los residentes qué les gustaría ver en el presupuesto. Estas sesiones se agruparán por distrito y la haremos entre el 15 y el 25 de febrero. Invitaremos a los miembros de la comunidad a que compartan sus puntos de vista para informar las decisiones relativas al presupuesto, los fondos federales para la recuperación y el nuevo modelo de presupuesto participativo. Mientras nos esforzamos por construir una ciudad que responda mejor a las necesidades de todas nuestras comunidades, seguiremos contando con nuestros residentes como líderes y compañeros para lograr ese objetivo. Espero que todos aprovechen esta oportunidad para contribuir con su voz y su perspectiva a este importante proceso. Okay, we have a couple speakers here. I'm going to turn it over first to our city councilors, and then we'll pass it to our chiefs, and then community leaders after that. So I'll start with Council President Ed Flynn.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. It's an honor to be here with you and my colleagues in the Boston City Council. I want to say thank you to Mayor Wu and her team for working closely with the Boston City Council and including, especially Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, who is the chair of the Ways and Means, the Budget Committee, in working with us to make sure that the voices of residents are heard during this process. So the City Council worked closely with the Mayor and the Mayor's team, and I'm proud of that. And, you know, the best programs, the best services we get is the feedback from residents. So it's important to make sure residents' voices are heard during this process. It's about working together. I want to say thank you to Mayor Wu and also to my City Council colleagues. I know they'll be speaking, but I want to say thank you to my colleagues as well. Thank you, Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Council President. Next up, Chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Councilor Tanya Fernandes-Anderson.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya Fernandes-Anderson, and just wanted to share a little bit about my position in Ways and Means. And as the first Cape Verdean and Black woman to chair Ways and Means, I'd like to proceed on to Portuguese. Thank you. There are many important committees that are chaired by my esteemed colleagues here on the council. I'm happy to be the chair of Ways and Means Committee, which will be reviewing the mayor's budget and how to best utilize it for the betterment of the people in a position that holds profound importance, as it enables me to have leading voice on how our city resources can be distributed and who benefits from said distribution. It is past time that our Black and brown and working class neighborhoods attain their fair share from our municipal funds. Hence, through an interactive partnership of council and community, we can embody an equitable lens of progressive economic transformation. I look forward to sharing a schedule of the committee on Ways and Means, community listening sessions, and more budget sessions for community members who are interested in listening and participating and to have a voice in the budget process. Bear with me. As I mentioned, I am Cape Verdean African immigrant, and as a chair of Ways and Means, I think it's important that we advocate for that as well. Meu nome é Tanya Fernandes-Anderson. Existem muitas comissões importantes que são realizadas pelos meus estimados colegas na Câmara Municipal. Tenho o prazer de presidir o Comitê de Formas e Meios, um comitê que envolve com o comércio de Boston como este. Pode ser melhor utilizado para o desenvolvimento da nossa comunidade. Este cargo que represento como City Council do Distrito 7 em Boston tem uma importância profunda, pois me permite ter uma voz de deliberação sobre como os recursos da nossa cidade são distribuídos e quem se beneficia. Já passou da hora das nossas comunidades negras, pardos e operados obterem sua parte juntas dos fundos municipais. Assim, por meio de uma parceria interativa entre conselho e comunidade, implementado um olhar de igualdade e transformação econômica positiva e favorável. É com satisfação que compartilho esta programação do Comitê de Formas e Meios com sucessos abertas para dar voz a membros da comunidade que estarão interessados em engajar e aprender mais sobre o processo do comércio do Estado e seu prerrogativo. Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with our advocates. For those of my council colleagues who've been working long and hard to pass Yes on 1, I thank you, and I look forward to continue to work with you.
Thank you so much. Next up, Councilor Senator Lydia Edwards.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seyoso, gracias and obrigado. This is a great moment for us in the city of Boston because I want to congratulate the mayor for, I think, being the first mayor to say, before I'm taking the official budget to the city council, I'm going to take it to the people of Boston. That's a huge win for us. That is exactly the conversation that the true leaders have, and they're being honest about transparency and also being willing to hold up a mirror to the people first, who are paying for us to function as a government. So I want to thank you, Mayor Wu, for that, because I think it's a moment of also vulnerability. We're going to also find out where we maybe didn't meet the mark. But more importantly, we're setting a table for the people of Boston to tell us first. From that conversation, it will inform then how we hold several meetings and hearings on the different departments, and we'll be able to point to people in our districts, people throughout the city of Boston, and their comments before. Traditionally, we've always had the city council get the budget, then we have one hearing where everyone comes in for hours on end and talks about what they do and don't like about the budget. And yes, it ends up being constrained, it ends up being predominantly in English, and it's to the exclusion of a lot of people. So this is an exciting new shift in culture for how we talk about money in the city of Boston, our money in the city of Boston particularly. And I want to again congratulate Mayor Wu and thank her for hearing what the people of Boston said through passing Yes on 1. They said they want in. We want a seat at the table. We want to see how the money is moved around. And we want to have a voice through our city council to make sure that the money is moved around in a way that reflects today's needs, wants, and desires. And also meets the moment. I am very, very incredibly honored to be here with the community advocates that took that message all over the city, and they'll speak shortly. But most importantly, we're meeting the moment, we're bringing people in, we're talking about their money at this particular time, and this is what true leadership looks like. I'm excited to get into the weeds with everybody. I'm excited to see how this new process works for us as a city council, and there's a culture shift that's to come. And I think this is all good things. This is all leading us to a more cohesive, united city. So thank you so much, Mayor Wu, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up is City Councilor Kenzie Bach, who in her time on the council has already pushed the city so much in ensuring innovations in the budget process to be more effective, more efficient, more transparent, and available to all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wu, and looking forward to working with Councilor Anderson and Ways and Means as I'm also chairing this term the ARPA COVID-19 Recovery Committee. And really, I think that what the mayor is pushing here is an ethos that, as Councilor Edwards says, needs to really pervade everything we do with our dollars in the city, whether they're federal dollars or your property taxes. It's really a question of helping people know and feel that this money is ours collectively, and that what we're doing with it together is not some separate agent government, it's us together. And I think that we've really seen that sense of ownership from the people of Boston around the Community Preservation Act and these funds that were specifically voted for being used on crucial projects, but really that's how we want people to understand the whole city budget. And I'm super grateful to the mayor for recognizing this as a moment, not only of literal charter change, and I was very proud to be strongly in support of Yes on 1 with so many of the advocates here and Councilor Edwards and others, but also beyond those sort of letter of the law things, a culture shift, right? And really having us have this upstream conversation, because this shift could wait until the moment of voting on budgets in a few months, but instead the mayor is really recognizing that what we need is upstream opportunities now for the people of Boston to make their voices heard on the budget, and for us to hear and think about how to creatively meet those needs with all of the city's funds. So I think it's really exciting. I am a bit of a budget nerd. I think that the budget is an exciting thing, and I'm grateful to a bunch of the city staff, Chief Starrett, Gabby, Jim, who are up here, who do like a ton of toiling to stitch it all together. But our budgets are at their strongest when those like budget nerd mechanics express the needs of the people of Boston and the people of Boston from every corner. And yeah, just really grateful to the mayor for setting up these community conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, City Councilor Aaron Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor Wu, for proactively scheduling these listening sessions so early in the process. And like Councilor Bach just said, that we're not like days before ready to vote on important issues, just letting the public have their voice heard. And I'm thankful to my colleagues and also looking forward to the chair, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, who we've already had a meeting with, and I've already sat down and met with the budget committee and the directors, so I'm thankful for that. But also as your at-large city councilor, it is my responsibility to lift the voices of neighborhoods and every person across the city. So I'm going to actively be working with my district councilors, but also looking forward to these conversations with the public, but knowing if they're not coming to these informational sessions, that I'm going out into the neighborhoods and really listening to what the needs are and making sure everyone's voices are heard. We're at a time now with a lot of money to spend from the federal government, but also with new rules and responsibilities on the council to spend it wisely, ethically, and I'm looking forward to that work together. So thank you again, Mayor Wu, for this opportunity for the public and us to come together soon in this process.
Next up, our Cabinet Chief, starting with Chief of Community Engagement, Brianna Malloy.
Well, honestly, this is what a kickoff to a budget cycle process looks like. It's in different languages, partnership with advocates, with the community, with the council, with the mayor's office, so I'm excited to be a part of this process. We often say the budget is a value statement, and this statement today shows that we value community and collaboration on building the people's budget. I'm excited to work alongside the city councilors, the Office of Budget Management that have been extraordinary in their expertise, and I appreciate their nerdness to on this topic and really educating the administration and the advocates in the community on this whole process, so thank you. And also collaborating community on shaping this budget. The sessions will be filled with informative material, touching upon everything from yes-1, ARPA, and just building out the official budget. And they will, the community will also have an opportunity to share their knowledge, feedback, and expertise in multiple different languages, which is something that this administration and this city needs. So I'm excited to support community and building that accessibility. Also, wanted to make sure that residents knew that if needed support, please call 301 on this whole process. So thank you so much for, again, the advocates, the community, Office of Budget Management, the City Council on building this and having community at the forefront and not in back end. Thank you.
Our Chief of Administration Finance has been through stewarded a number of budgets before, and his thought partnership has been absolutely critical to making sure that we can do this in a way that is sound for the city, but also fits with the very detailed mechanics of all the pieces fitting into place at the right time. Thank you so much, Justin Stitt.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be exceptionally brief. I know all the thank yous I think have gone out there. I just want to jump on 2 points. One, in addition to the surveys, there's going to be, in addition to the sessions, there's going to be an online survey that you'll be able to track throughout the entire process. So starting today, all the way until the council votes on it at the end of June. So we will actually be able to see whether we are reflective and accountable to the voices that we heard during this process. And the only other thing I'll add, and jumping on the mayor's point, not only is more voices good for reflecting what the communities want, but it's also good for fiscal responsibility. It's a good opportunity to really shine a light on areas of the budget that are good spending or areas that need improvement. And I think this is certainly an area that I thank the councilors and senators who pushed this during the budget process, that this was a value add to the budget process and not something that would take it away. So I really appreciate that. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
And speaking on behalf of the many, many community partners and leaders who've been pushing for this for decades, Andres de Castillo of Right to the City.
Hi everyone, my name is Andres de Castillo, co-director of Right to the City Boston, a multiracial, multilingual alliance of grassroots groups in Boston. And we're just really excited to be here, very thankful for all the work that all of our councilors, now Senator Edwards, has done in helping us bring this to this moment, and thankful for to take that and run with it, to really bring this and materialize it. Residents and community organizations across our city are ready to participate with government. They're ready to deeply engage with government, and that's what they said this past November. That's what they're ready to do now, and it's really exciting to see government saying, welcome in, saying to our residents across the city that they also want them there in that process. We deeply believe in the power of co-governance and participatory democracy. And last year, we helped to lead the effort to address these needs and change the city's charter so that residents could have a seat at this table. We deserve a seat that allows families and neighbors to discuss the vision of their communities and what resources we need in our neighborhoods to help create a stronger, resilient, and more sustainable efforts that uplift the needs of our communities and residents across the city. We recognize that an equitable recovery from this particular crisis that we're coming out of requires this. It necessitates this moment where residents can actively engage with what the solutions and the allocation of resources towards those solutions will look like. And that is why we're very excited for the mayor's announcement and her steadfast commitment to governing with residents. We also look forward to and acknowledge the steadfast commitment of Ways and Means Chair, Councilor Fernandez Anderson, to a community-driven process. We're very thankful to all of our city councilors, all the department chairs, and all the staff and teams that are working on this, because we're feeling now a city council, a city hall, a local government from every level that is really willing and ready to engage with our communities. To residents, this is an invitation. And this is an invitation from all levels of local government for residents to join the conversation. And we're excited to help guide and grow that dialogue. Thank you to the city councilor and chair, Fernandez Anderson. Thank you to Mayor Michelle Wu, and I haven't heard one yet, but I think everybody up here deserves an applause. Thank you.
Questions? Feel free to direct them to any of the city councilors up here too. We are looking at the same set of metrics when it comes to masking in the city of Boston, around ensuring that there's not strain on the hospital system and ensuring that the community positivity rate is under thresholds of concern. But additionally, our Boston Public Health Commission has determined that we need to see consistent downward trend of these numbers so that we are not just kind of dipping above and below and above and below. And so that will follow, and the conversation about masks in schools is a related but distinct conversation that will be based on the specific needs of our school system. At the same time, I have 2 kids in our schools. I know it's been such a challenging set of years for our entire school communities. We are working very closely with the Boston Public Schools and superintendent and leadership to be creative about how we can activate outdoor spaces for learning as well, outdoor spaces for lunch, so that there will be many places where kids can be outside and unmasked even before we get to the point where mask mandates are lifted in the city. I don't feel that. I mean, I came to this role after loving and appreciating every moment of my experience on the city council, and I truly value their partnership, their representation of the people of Boston, and it is up to each councilor to choose which issues they want to prioritize as the time that they're spending representing their constituents, and it's up to the administration to be responsive to that wherever we can, as well as to create opportunities to partner proactively.
Yeah, let me just say before I address that, as city council for the last 4 years, I've had an excellent working relationship with Councilor Wu, now Mayor Wu. She was always honest, she was always inclusive, and we learned a lot from her, and hopefully we had a great partnership. I know that's going to continue as mayor, because that's the way she conducted herself as city councilor. And it's a back and forth discussing issues, bringing people to the table, bringing people together, bringing the city together. So that's the type of leadership the mayor has. So I expect that we'll continue to have a positive working relationship, because of the mutual respect that this body has for Mayor Wu, but also for the office of the mayor as well. So Mayor represents the people of Boston, and the residents have great respect for the mayor, but they also have great respect for the office of the mayor as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So I am the chair of public health, and I know that I was calling the hearing so that we weren't having these conversations in silos and questioning what metrics are we using, when are they changing, how are they being updated, so that there was never a question about a breakdown in trust. Knowing that I'm going into this hearing hoping that people are coming with questions, because I've known already in the few months I've been in this position that when you're getting phone calls or emails or you're answering people in different conversations, the facts don't stay the same, right? Where people are hearing different things or reporting out different things. So I'm hoping that this gives us an opportunity for the mayor's office, for the public health, and for those concerned with all of these questions to be at the table at the same time. So there's just... I mean, I'd have to look more and talk. I was talking with the BTU this morning, and as a former teacher in the Boston Public Schools, I know the masks are necessary for safety, and I think it's tied directly to the metrics. And if we are coming out of and moving into what I know Mayor Wu was calling like a yellow phase out of red, but if we're going back in, I do think, I'm not in favor or not, but I'm open to the conversation about wondering when will we get there, and if we're holding back, is it based on data, and what data are we looking at? It may come up, I think it may not directly come up, but it's going to be tied into the data we're looking at, like what numbers do we need? Is it community? Is it neighborhood numbers? Is it going to be school by school? So I think overall, I hope we leave that meeting having a better understanding from the public health, from the experts, on what metrics we as a city want to use, and that the councilors have an opportunity too to ask the questions. That we're not just getting questions answered in different offices, or people are getting different feelings from it. So I just hope that this brings us all together to the table. Sure. Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of democracy, right? We get to get together and have a conversation and allow people to express their positions, hopefully scientifically based. I just want to reiterate that hopefully this is also an opportunity for us to talk about how we respond to each other when we disagree. I think that we all know that Mayor Wu has been withstanding abuse and all of this discrimination, bigoted comments, harassment, even stalking. And so hopefully, in the same spirit of conversation and democracy, we're going to also hold accountable those who have been doing this, right? Who's been perpetuating these types of abusive behavior towards our mayor. Thank you.
Pretend that I can know what's best statewide. All I know as the city of Boston, and the best that we can do is to make informed decisions for our residents through collaborative open processes, through data and metrics. And so I'm very grateful that each municipality has a chance to build on the baselines that the state is setting. It does make a difference, right? For example, with our indoor requirement for proof of vaccination, it was a significant blow to the coordination of that when other cities across the region did not end up working in that same direction. A statewide situation or even a regional situation would have been very different. And so we are in this space of city by city having to coordinate. I understand that the conditions and the local situation and the data and the trends may look very different in different parts of the Commonwealth, but having that burden entirely on cities is something that we will step up for any situation, but it does have impacts on municipalities. So looking at similar metrics and thresholds, but additionally with a consistent trend of downward progress. We want to add just a little bit of durability to the masking situation, because we know that in many of our spaces, for example, in the Boston Public Schools, not only is it tighter physical space because our classrooms can be quite crowded, but there are larger vaccination gaps among our youngest students especially.
So what does that mean?
We are waiting until we get down to the threshold, past the threshold of daily COVID hospitalizations, of ICU capacity, and of the community positivity rate. Additionally, there needs to be several weeks of downward trends for the mask mandate to be considered, to consider lifting the mask mandate above.
Speaking of the budget, there are some areas where calling for more security in schools. Say, let's look back, you free up some money and put more security in certain schools in the future.
The superintendent has presented her budget, and school committee's process is a little bit accelerated because they additionally need school committee approval before the school budget comes to the city council administration. So we are going to plan for a much more collaborative process for that next year. The kind of horse already left the barn in some ways because BPS's timelines are a little bit accelerated. I'll defer to Justin on if he wants to add more on this front. But within that budget, there are key investments for the stability, the well-being, and the social-emotional health of all of our young people in our school communities. That is central to every bit of how our young people feel supported in this time where mental health is a very intense challenge across our city and beyond. And of course, we're going to ensure that every single school is a safe environment for our young people. That is not simply a conversation about security and addressing incidents as they arise, but about creating the holistic, supportive, nurturing environment that includes supports for our school families, no matter whether it is something that directly comes from Boston Public Schools or it's a housing stability situation that the Office of Housing Stability can help with, or need to close the digital divide. We are working towards a much more integrated look, and that's why I really believe that this set of community-driven listening sessions to guide the budget will help show us also how intersectional these issues are out in the city. Does anyone want to add anything on this?
I mean, I think we know the facts, right? Like, it's silly to talk about more police and more security in our schools when we know that preventative measures are social and emotional supports and mental health supports. So I'm personally looking forward, and I'm not going to make it about me, but I want to be very clear that we are moving toward a society that needs more of issues of economic development in a way that is going to be real, more concrete plans to uplift our community, and also supporting them with services so that our children can excel academically.
So just so everyone's on the same page, because this news is fairly fresh, I'm very grateful that the Boston Teachers Union, as of last night, overwhelmingly ratified a collective bargaining agreement around proof of vaccination. It calls for all new hires to be vaccinated, no questions, moving forward, and it provides for that very, very small, I think we're at 94% vaccinated. Is that right for P2? 95. Okay, so the small 5% of unvaccinated staff to be to have certain surge-tied provisions tied to their presence in our classrooms and schools. And so during what's been called a red zone surge, when we are above these metrics as judged by ICU capacity, daily hospitalization from COVID, as well as community positivity rate, these unvaccinated, again, just a small 5% group, would be on unpaid leave and not present in our classrooms. During a yellow phase, when we are below all three of those thresholds, but still in a mask-mandated situation, there would be the provision for twice weekly testing to make sure that we are still keeping our classrooms fully safe. This is the shape of the deal that was also proposed to our public safety unions as well. We did not reach an agreement with them.
Just on the BPS mask mandate, just to be clear, BPS, you're saying BPS will not be lifting the mask mandate at the end. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, the extension of the mandate is not like tied to any sort of deadline, rather it's tied to
Metrics.
metrics. So it's not like it's a 3-week extension or 2-month
That's right.
extension. It's tied to metrics. Is that
Yep.
correct? They're expecting people that wear masks most of the year, or really with that.
The point of tying these two metrics is to really be sure that we are being responsive to the conditions out in our city. Those conditions very much are affected by vaccination rates, most of all. The more that we all get vaccinated, the more that we get boosted and close these gaps, the faster all of these rates will come down and fall below the threshold, the faster that we get out of this pandemic. This is what our public health officials have been saying this entire time. We continue to urge people to get vaccinated. We saw a huge jump in vaccination with the introduction of many of our policies as the surge was starting, and that has helped get us out of it on this end. We want to see that progress continue. Boston's workers are now among the most vaccinated group anywhere at over 95% of our workforce vaccinated. We need to see that same level, that number continue to grow. We also need to see that same number grow in our communities. Dr. Ochakutu and Superintendent Caselius are partnering on a series of pediatric vaccination clinics during school vacation week in February so that we can continue to close those gaps within BPS. But we want to be responsive to the current situation that our families and communities are in that is very much affected by what we each individually do.
Sure, it's a great question. So the Office of Budget Management routinely starts the budget process, as the mayor mentioned, in January. We go out to departments and we ask them, what are you looking for next year? We will then sort of overlay all this information that comes back through the listening sessions, through the survey, through that same lens of what departments are looking for, and that will be reflected in the mayor's budget. And obviously, as folks mentioned, we may not get it all right on that first try. I think we're going to have a much more reflective process and a reflective product at that point, but then that'll obviously kick over to the city council process where we'll continue the dialogue, and at the very end of the process, we'll be able to say, we had these listening sessions, we did this survey, this is what the community asked for, and this is the end product at the end of the day.
Last question. I will presume to know what should or could have gone into the governor's calculation. What I know is that the city of Boston is not ready to lift our mask mandate, so ours will stay in place for the time being. Para mí es una situación de enfocar en la ciudad de Boston, no en las decisiones de otros niveles como el gobernador Baker. Es importante que cada comunidad tiene las protecciones necesarias en este momento muy urgente todavía, un momento de emergencia de salud pública. Entonces, en Boston tenemos que mantener requisitos para los máscaras en las escuelas y también en la comunidad.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
policy, right? We should come to the table and have that opportunity to discuss the numbers and when will we go into the yellow zone? And is that metrics going to change or is it a firm set of data?
Do you think it should be lifted?
Sorry, the mask mandate?
Yes. Do you think it should be lifted?
In schools? I think teachers, if they feel safe, I know as a classroom teacher that maybe if they're not feeling safe with some of their children, but I think right now we feel like I do see that the data is showing that it's safe to lift the mask mandate. In a few weeks too, we're talking February 28th. So if things change, of course. But the numbers even from 2 days ago, and that was one of the frustrations I had, that when you go on to the public health website, you know, some of those links that you could click weren't updated for weeks or months, and we know that this is changing daily. So if we're going in the right direction, but always making sure that if things change, that we're going to have to be flexible and willing to put the mask back on or have the restrictions come back if needed.
Are you able to describe what the hearing will be able to give you? Like, obviously, the department heads or people who will be testifying. Is that going to be able to give you information so the constituents can hear it firsthand? Or
yes, and I think also with a lot of new council members, and we have a new administration and a new public health commissioner, that some of the questions where I'm hoping that get answered is who's making these decisions? Is it coming to a vote? Because it seems like when you see Salem or Worcester, their Board of Health is voting, or their town selectmen or women are having an opportunity to weigh in. So it's questions about how did we get here and how did we change, right? Because when the conversation was with Mayor Janey at that time, it seemed like it was safe to keep testing an option. And we were in a much unsafer place as far as COVID and data, right? So it's just a lot of questions I'm getting from constituents and colleagues. Now here we are in February in a much better place data-wise with coronavirus and numbers going down. That shouldn't we be going in the opposite direction, not in a more restrictive? And if we are, then please explain why. Because I'm not questioning, so I just want to have that answer. Like, why are we going in that direction?
And that includes masking in schools as well?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think it all is combined, right? It's all together. And the hearing, I know that there is a small number of people who are being disruptive to the mayor and disrespectful and racist. So I do want to make sure that it's come up in conversations here and in news articles that this hearing is absolutely not a forum for people to just be disrespectful. It's to get information. And I know tomorrow's hearing will be over Zoom still, and I've already talked to central staff several times to make sure that safety is in place, and if we need to shut down video or bump people out of the Zoom, that's absolutely ready to do. It's not an opportunity for anyone to act in a way that is not respectful to all of the members here.
Do you know who will testify first?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. It'll be department heads.
Yes, we're inviting the Public Health Commission and also unions to tomorrow union. And Frank Baker, Councilor Baker and I also called for a hearing we're hoping to have the beginning of next week, which is more related to the public health questions.
So it'll be two separate hearings?
It's going to be two separate hearings.
And the one tomorrow is specifically with health leaders kind of gathering information?
Yes, and that one because the unions were invited and there is a collective bargaining piece to it. President Flynn had correctly put it into Councilor Bach's committee, which is the city services. The hearing next week is only about the public health questions and getting more information on the metrics and the commission and the public health board, also questions about the board.
I'm sorry, members of the public can speak at either?
Absolutely, right. There's also the link tomorrow Zoom, you can sign up. And when we hear, it hasn't been scheduled yet, but we're working today to find out when the public health board will happen.
Gotcha. Will that be at Zoom as well?
We're hoping in person, because we're thinking tomorrow is the last day. City Hall is remote.
Right.
And the council is back in person next week, so we're hoping in person.
Can we have you just say and spell your name so we get it on tape?
Spell it, E-R-I-N, and then Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Thank you. Like neighbor, that's here.
But you go to the...
Then I was like, I don't want to be cute.
They don't want to go like whatever. Well, I know, but now I'm okay with it. Yeah.
How you doing there? Right?
I know, that's sad when they come in and you're excited.
It's all you.
I was like,
They didn't even need to see your face.
All right, guys, that's about it.